Hey everybody, it's Jim Mallard here. Welcome to the Mallard Report. The Mallard Report is recorded in front of a live virtual audience on the Duck Pond. Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, live. Mallard.com, MALLIARD.com. One more thing before we start. Let me turn it over to my friend that you may know from Ancient Aliens and The Curse of Oak Island and many other things, Robert Clotworthy.
On the Mallard Report, the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily of Evergreen Podcasts, KillerPodcast.com, sponsor or affiliate, or any other individual or group. On the Mallard Report, the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the show are solely those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily of Evergreen Podcasts, KillerPodcast.com, sponsor or affiliate, or any other individual or group.
Hey everybody, it's Jim Mallard here. Welcome to the Mallard Report. Start again? No, it didn't. Oh, it did. That's going to be the most important. You're always counting down to the post. I'm going to see if the intro plays more than once.
Exactly.
I'm just going to show up when we can play the intro throughout the whole show and then just walk out and play the outro. How long how many people would stay for the whole hour? No. I've got Germantown runner Dave Ross with us. Excuse me. How are you doing tonight, Dave?
I'm doing really well, Jim. Happy to be back on with you, and wish everybody that's tuning in happy Tuesday.
We've got Gio with us on the old duck pond, and he's got some weird fancy thing going on. I'm sure he'll tell me here in a minute now that I mentioned it, but
Gio is always super fancy. He's always fancy.
He's always got the best stuff.
Oh, he does. He has the best. He's got the best avatars, the best everything.
Yeah. So I see him typing, so we're just going to stall out here for a second.
Good. He's got some of the best stories. But while he's typing, I want to let people know why I'm dressed a little bit casual tonight. I'm wearing some Mallard Report swag, so I want people to see it. Okay. So here we go. I hope people have gone to the swag store and picked some up. Here we go. Ready?
I love it. It's the old straight block font Mallard Report.
Straight block font. It's cool. It's cotton. It's white on these hot August days and now nights. Perfect.
Clean and simple.
Clean and simple.
What I like.
Which was, of course, my college radio name my sophomore year.
Yeah, of course it was. Oh, it's the Huntington Art Museum, Library, and Botanical Gardens in San Marino, California. He spent a delightful day.
Did it get washed away in the hurricane?
He must not have, because he's here. He spent a delightful day there Saturday. Well, there you go. See, this is new old stuff.
Gio, my jealousy envelops me like a cheap T-shirt.
Like the one you're wearing. No.
Yeah, there you go. Like this one. Worth every penny.
So, Gio, I've got to ask a question. Well, we're going to get to the end of Spiritual Summer here in a second. Which was the best part, the museum, the library, or the Botanical Gardens? I'm more interested in the Botanical Gardens, but that's just me. I just like because they do so, all of them are so well manicured and makes me completely jealous because I look at that and I go, oh, I need some of these people to come work on my yard for a couple of hours.
Yeah, it's intimidating, isn't it, when you see them? Wow. Hey, Duckmaster, did you hear from Chris at all in California? Did he fare well in the hurricane?
Actually, he is moving, and I'm not exactly sure. Breaking news there. Sorry.
In state?
So no, cross country. I'll just say that much without giving you too much.
Well, good. He's coming the correct direction.
Yeah, he's going to be in Eastern time zone finally. So along that southern line.
Yeah, good job.
So you can figure that out. You probably could figure it out. I wouldn't give you any Mickey Mouse clues or anything, but
oh, he'll be by my brother. Wow.
Not sure where there, but okay. The storm came in Sunday. My flight home was canceled, so I came back today. Well, I'm glad you made it home safe.
Yeah, thank goodness. Yes.
So we're here wrapping up Spiritual Summer, and it feels kind of early to be wrapping up summer, Dave. But I think we got to, because we want to get 7 weeks of haunted fallen. Doesn't have nearly the alliteration as Spiritual Summer, but
True. But I think a lot of your listenership, your viewership is really enjoyed the spiritual summer and is driving toward this haunted fall. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun. Because I did break some news there too. 7 weeks, right?
Yeah.
There's eight Tuesdays between. We have a Tuesday next week, which is going to be a wild card, which I love because that kind of keeps my pulse going. And then I have 7 shows between September and October. There's 8 weeks. I'll be taking a week off. Already planned. Look out.
Love it.
First Tuesday in October, I'll be down towards you in Lancaster.
Yep.
So there's that coming. So that we'll probably talk about that here in a little bit. But
yeah, that'll be great. Oh no.
Oh no, what?
Okay, sorry, my screensaver just kicked in. I thought I lost you. Oh goodness. Okay, every once in a while, I know now I have to hit the shift key.
Okay, I thought for sure
like you
was going to knock on your door and said, "I can Xfinity coming to your neighborhood." Wanted to give you a warning that your internet's being turned off.
Terrible. It could go out at any moment. Curse you, Comcast. Curse you.
Once we get past halfway through the show, I'm feeling better about it.
Yeah, you and me both. But then my screen just went black. I almost had an aneurysm.
What I'll be doing next?
My
I
Lord.
can't call 911 for you.
I was in thinking about the spiritual summer and the slate of programs that you had and the guests that you had, including last week's guest. Her name escapes me, but the woman that was in the crystals.
Amy Robeson.
Amy Robeson. I thought she was really interesting. I'm not a big crystal guy. I'm not a big, I don't know. I'm somewhat doubtful about it, but I found her show to be very compelling. She kind of won me over.
Yeah, I think anybody has something they put some attention to, whether it be a stone or whatever. I think there's something to that. I'm always a little fluid on it, I guess, because
I've done some thinking on this, and I think that, and I've done some reading on this as well. I think that there's an innate desire in our species, in human beings, Homo sapiens. I think there's a unique need to believe that there's something more than just ourselves in our consciousness, our earthly plane. And whether we fill that void or that need with an organized religion or a passion about the environment or an object like a crystal or a separate belief system or none at all, not a belief system at all, which ironically is a de facto belief system, that we can't escape it. We cannot pull away from the gravity of that need in our lives. That spiritualism, in whatever form it takes, is an inescapable aspect of our being.
Yeah.
Now, for some people, it's politics. I think that's kind of an empty spiritualism, if I can be so opinionated, because it's just a blood sport. But for some people, that's their religion. It's their spirituality. But I think for most others, there are deeper, more rewarding things like, crystals, Mother Nature, environmentalism. Although I can go on and on about environmentalism, but I'm not. Or organized religion or whatever. And I think that you really put your thumb on something when you.
I'm going to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
But spiritualism, outdoors, environmentalism. I know you have a lot of opinions on them, but they're all outside bringing nature in, which is a good thing that we're looking to take care of the planet, because eventually, one way or another, Mother Nature is going to take care of us.
Yes, I agree. So I'm always amused when I hear somebody rail against spiritualism or rage against a certain belief system, because that is their belief system. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like we as humans can't escape it. It's just something that we desire. It's something that's so desperately needed in our lives. And I thought that you had your thumb on the button when you decided to do a spiritual summer. I thought that was the right way to go.
and as you know, we're going to go through some of these other guests here in a minute. But I played to every side of spiritualism. We had a couple references.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even some of the darker sides of spiritualism, which have been some of your best shows, because they're the most challenging intellectually. They're the most challenging to one's own belief system when you pursue in a show a dark side. And we didn't do that this summer, but on those programs where I have found that to be very engaging and very personally challenging.
Yeah, I like the shows where I'm still up at midnight trying to figure out what just happened.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know I had this conversation. It went so fast, and I feel like I missed so much that I'm just sitting here going, what?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense, and that's all good. And I think we did kind of have a challenging show, maybe not in the traditional dark sense. Well, kind of the dark sense. BJ Ray, who called in, early on in the show and told us all about her trauma and all that, and that was just kind of
that was I still have had a hard time in processing that calling guest and her unbelievably tragic story and how she could even be standing. I mean, as a writer, as a nonfiction writer, if I tried to attempt to write fiction and somebody gave me the challenge to write the most outlandish, shocking, cascadingly bad story with one event leading to another bad thing and another bad thing, I could never have come up with her real life in my imagination. It was really blowing my mind. I've still thought about it for a long time, and it's really difficult to explain it, right? I mean, how could all of that happen to one woman?
Yeah.
I mean,
that was one of those nights I was here until 11 o'clock going, how in the is this like?
Yeah. For those who know me and who have spoken to me or heard me on your show or have seen me in the chat room in the duck pond, I'm never at a loss for words. And you let me go, you turn me loose, and I go. And I was really taken aback by that. I didn't know how to react to it. It was shocking. It was depressing in a way. In another way, it was, in a strange way, it was kind of uplifting that she had survived all this, that she was a survivor. But I just couldn't help feel but the pull of melancholy for her, for her life. Not that she was asking that of us, she wasn't, but I just felt it. I just had a hard time warding that feeling away.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was definitely difficult. I mean, and as the host of that show, hearing that story, how do I mean, I'm speechless. I don't want to, yeah, that's a great story. Thanks for calling. Yeah, like.
Yeah. That was, you just kind of, you stole what my next thought was going to be, and thank you for that, which is that I thought you handled it very, very well. I tried to put myself in your shoes the hour after the show ended, 2 hours, like, what would I have done? What would I have said? And like I said, I was really speechless, and I'm glad I wasn't hosting and you were, because I thought you handled it really well.
Reminds me of back in the day, probably one of the first prediction shows, and the first caller out of the chute was, "Hey, Jim, I'm leaving my husband." I'm like, does he know? And she's like, well, he's listening to your show. He probably does now.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, that's quite a prediction. Like,
that's one to bottle and throw into the ocean.
Yeah, like,
wow.
I don't know if that's prediction or accurate, just whatever.
Have you heard from her since she appeared on the show?
No.
Have you had any email correspondence or anything with her?
Nothing. Just that one pop up and back out.
Wow.
It was strange.
I've thought about her a lot, and then this is going to sound terrible. I've thought about her a lot, and then I tried not to think about her situation a lot because it's so painful. It's so tragic.
Yeah. So, we started the spiritual summer with, which seems like an odd place to start, 2 former ministers in different places, but they're both turning creative. So it's kind of the same story, but it really wasn't, which kind of is why I did it.
Yeah. What possessed you to do? What possessed you to do both? I'm curious.
I've been talking to the Naked Pastor for quite a while on Twitter, or excuse me, X. Or doesn't sound right to call it X. They need a verb. And it just kind of worked that he was available. I was going to start Spiritual Summer with him. I think I did actually. And then I talked to Marty Oakley, and he's been interested in being on for a while too. And I was like, okay. So I was looking at my dates, and there was that next date, and I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Just kind of put them back, and kind of a slow roll. I mean, it's obviously interesting to talk to somebody that was called. I use that in quotes, right? Because I don't know. I do believe partially, but it's still kind of gray for me. And then have them take a different path again, which was it's kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, it is. It is. I thought coming out of the gate for Spiritual Summer that was actually it wouldn't be the stereotypical guest you think you would have to start your summer with. Those guests. So I thought that was really good. I thought that was refreshing. I thought it was different, and it kind of kicked off a different vibe for Spiritual Summer, something that wouldn't be traditional or that you could predict. You would have. I liked that.
Yeah, like I said, I like kind of just diving into those parts of spiritualism that kind of make you go, well, that is part of it. But yeah. I wasn't. You were probably expecting a bunch of New Age. Well, I did get a Reiki, in all that range, but I kind of tried to push it all around. And then, of course, I shoved the UFO guest in there because I knew his thoughts on ufology being a religion. William Poland, good friend of the show, first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about William? I mean, he's the best. Yeah. I'm not in the pond tonight because I'm on here. Is he in?
He's not, but he might be watching on Facebook because we're over there tonight too. So.
Okay, cool. Well,
hey, Cat Ward just told me to say hello to you, so she's in.
Yeah, Cat moi. People always say to me, "Why do you say in the duck pond, die cat, D-I-E, die cat?" I'm not saying die. I'm saying D. That's the German word for the, and they always put the in front of a proper noun. So I would be the Dave. You would be the duck master. She's the cat. And so it's D cat. But people think I'm telling her to die. Die cat.
That's pretty funny. I do enjoy seeing that, even though you've said that several times on the pond, but it's just kind of fun to see the negative intention that Dave posts that with.
It's unintentionally negative, and it's if you're in on the joke, it's hilarious. If you remember back to the 1980s when Donald Trump was married to Ivana Trump, and she called him the Donald, and that became his nickname in the New York press, the Donald. That's because in Hungarian, I think she was Hungarian. I'm not exactly sure. Czech. They do the same thing that the Germans do. They put the word "the" in front of the name. So she literally translated his name as the Donald, whereas in English she would just say Donald.
Right.
But in her mind, she was translating word for word, so it came out the Donald. So that's why I say that. Geo
points out check.
Thank you, Geo. I've told Geo this once. I've told him 1,000 times. Nobody likes to show off.
It's funny because normally I'd start to ramble about something and you'd be popping up, but you're too busy tonight.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Check me live.
Oh, I got to keep Geo. Geo's going to be standing in.
That's good. Oh, Dave speaks German to me, and I speak French to him.
This is correct.
And speaking of the pond, this has probably been the most talked about thing on the pond, and I'm going to bring it up so I can see it. The space pizza. And, people wonder, where's it from? What's it about? I was just going through emojis and found that, and I thought, that is just amazing.
I like the paperclip.
Yeah, well, I knew you did because you sent it to me. If I got one direct message, I probably got 100 with the paperclip.
Yeah, exactly. Hit the post.
Only time you're rooting for somebody to hit the post, by the way.
Yeah. When going back to that UFO show with William, I really like his he reminds me in terms of his approach to ufology, kind of similar to Art Bell in a way. And I mean that as a high compliment here. That's from me, that's a very high compliment. In that he's never, like when you ask him all kinds of questions about what he believes and doesn't believe, even in the things that he didn't believe in that were UFO related or that he could perhaps debunk, etc., he was very gentle about that, non-judgmental. And I think the best hosts that discuss the UFO topic or anything paranormal, frankly, are the ones that don't judge their guests or their callers or their participants in this case, the duck pond. You know what I mean? Like you could easily make fun of, and he didn't do that, and that, he gets like a thumbs up for me for that.
Well, often, we've had a number of guests on, right? I find myself buying in for that hour to whatever they're telling me so I can pursue that deepness, right? Because if I'm just being skeptical, I'm not going to find out their deepness. I'm just going to be, for lack of a better word, pissing them off because I'll be just egging them on and irritating them. But if I buy in and take that journey and see if I can get myself to believe whatever it is, if it's ufology or ghost hunters or conspiracy, whatever it may be, if they can convince me that night, well, that's a twist.
I think that the best hosts do that, whether they're terrestrial radio or they're podcasters or they're internet people. I think that you and Kat and William and George Knapp especially, the late Art Bell, I think you guys all do a really good job of empathizing without patronizing. You could easily, with a wink and a nod, patronize your guests, and all of us in your audience would know what you were doing. But it would be a form of cruelty. It would be a form of, I don't know, it would be ugly. And you guys, none of you do it. You do a really good job.
I think that also is why I'm able to walk out and get any number of people, because they know they're going to get a fair shake.
Right. And you let your listeners and your viewers decide. I mean, I think that's at the height of its popularity. I think that was the beauty of Coast to Coast under Art Bell. He had some of the wackiest whack biscuits on that you could have. It was, he was blazing trails on terrestrial radio with this stuff, putting these people on, and you'd be rolling your eyes. But then after a while, you start listening and you understand why he's doing it. He's letting his listeners, who are long haul truckers out in Pahrump, Nevada, decide, and you and I decide, and not have him have to belittle his guests, even though some of the things and some of the topics he had on were outrageous. But it became fun, and I think that the whole cottage industry that sprung up underneath him and others have really, those who follow his way are doing him justice, and they are memorializing him on the airways.
So I don't know if we've talked about this on here before or not. So if we have, you're just going to have to listen to it again. Maybe our opinions have changed. I don't know. But I've had this conversation with several people about how art peaked because there wasn't the internet, and it wasn't podcast, and wasn't all these things. He had the imagination of all these people who never talked to, I'm trying to think of a name. Scott Walter, the geologist, right? If he would have been on back in the day, we'd all have to hear that story once. But now we've heard, he's been on here several times. So we've all kind of heard him, and then he goes out and does, countless other shows. Now the exposure of him, well, why are you going to listen to him on Coast again? So there's a unique facet to that. And then the other thing is, I heard some people complaining about they're getting the same callers on Coast all the time. Well, I'm not going to call on the Coast because I can just call up the guy and say, hey, come on my show.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that, any kind of pioneering status is a combination of the right idea with the right person at the right time. And some of that you can attribute to luck, some of it you can attribute to fate, certainly talent. And Bell was in that right place in the right time, right? Like you said, just at the dawn of the internet, pre-podcasting, he had basically a monopoly. he had a 600 station monopoly, including many 50,000 watt blowtorches that went coast to coast, hence the name. So yeah, I mean,
I just love the visual of a blowtorch. Hang on. You see me out back.
Yeah,
like the blow it out.
Exactly. I mean, that's why I think your audience is particularly anticipating Haunted Fall that's coming up. I think they're going to be in the mood for it after a long hot summer.
And so, as we mentioned that, I don't have all the guest book yet, so I'm not even going to try to tell you who I got coming. So that's not going to be fair. But I do want to talk about the Halloween show, right? It's actually on Halloween, right? I have to get my calendar up, so this might take a second. Yes, that last Tuesday, actually on Halloween. We're doing a group call, so you won't be the only one on it. Well, assuming other people show up.
Will it look like the Brady Bunch squares?
If we get all the squares filled, I don't know how many squares we can get up there, but
that would be cool.
And we'll be able to talk about ghost stories and what happened through the fall, and then the next week, the 12th annual, 13th annual. Well, it can't be that many. Be like the 10th or 11th, I guess. Yeah, predictions.
Yeah.
In 2020, is the presidential election year, so I have to be thinking about this.
Yep.
It's somewhat hard to predict who's going to win when you don't have nominees yet.
Well, not only that, but think about the media landscape, how media is going to change in this next year. Look at how it changed this year. Consolidations, massive consolidations and selling, and a writer's strike and controversies and bankruptcies. Whole websites that a year ago were valued at $1 billion are now penny stocks. Vice. There are many though.
Look at even like Barstool, right? Did you hear about Barstool?
Barstool, yep, sold back to Dave Portnoy.
Yeah, they took the $499 million.
Yep.
Took a huge loss.
Who could have predicted that? I mean, that's what the show's about, for the prediction show. But it's time to think about it now because, boy, not only in politics, but I think in media as well. Huge shakeouts coming.
It's got to, you got to, like I said, I like to put some time into that because it's wild. Trying to be edgy and be on top of it, and it's hard to do. Okay, so the other thing is, speaking of media, I seen this Saturday or Sunday, one of those loop days, because I seen that Apple, Disney's been trying to figure out how to sell ESPN, I guess.
Yeah,
and Apple might do it just and turn it completely into a streaming thing.
Apple might purchase ESPN?
Yeah.
Wow. I've not heard that. Wow.
And just like how that changed.
That would be earth shattering. I think it would deliver a near death blow to sports on cable.
Yeah. I mean, and that should, quote unquote, lower some people's cable bills, but I'll believe that when I see it.
Comcast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to think about it, right? Well, how long can cable survive with all these different streaming platforms in the current situation?
I did read an article the other day, though, and this was kind of interesting. I hadn't thought about this, but the big trend in the mid to late 2000s into the 2010s that has lasted up until today, the present time, has been cord cutting. People paying for streaming services and cutting their cable subscription or canceling their cable subscription in order to save money. Well, the article has pointed out now that the differential between cable and streaming services now is narrowing. So it's no longer automatically cheaper to cut cable and to go with streaming services if you want to try to do a apples to apples comparison. Streaming now, the price increases have gone up and up and up. So now people are starting to ask, what is the next thing? It was cable, then it was streaming. Streaming has gotten expensive. Now what is it going to be? People were openly speculating.
I think there's got to be some consolidation in that streaming thing.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what the next thing's going to be.
But how much media concentration do you want? And then what effect does that have on prices when you have consolidated industry and not as many competitors? It's tough.
That's the next problem.
So people will walk, maybe people will walk away. Maybe people will turn to independent contractors like a Tucker Carlson or a Glenn Beck or an Elon Musk and just provide platforms for people to launch whole empires on. Bill O'Reilly has done it. I don't know. It's something is going to come after streaming. Cable,
I hope it's independent media.
Yeah. Independent media.
Obvious reason.
It's interesting that there's a lot of, like at ESPN, look at how many layoffs and terminations they've had of top talent, on camera top talent.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's an awful lot.
Of course, they have a lot of talent too. So
yeah. I think that segues really great into the other guest you had a couple of weeks ago in Ian Punnett.
Yes.
The college professor from my hometown. He and I grew up within a stone's throw from each other in Northern Illinois. Boy, that was a good show. I mean, that's a top 10 show. I wanted that show to go on and on and on. I couldn't believe it was over. It's 1 hour. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he was just very candid. And I was worried about that, right? Because, he does have several jobs that he needs to be a little, I don't want to say protective of, but I can't think of a better word at this point, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily want to go. I mean, I wasn't asking questions to get him into hot water, but, it does happen when you start speaking candid.
Yeah. Of course. I just thought that his story was so fascinating. And he's another host like yourself, like Art Bell, who is very compassionate. Like he has some wackadoodle people on his shows, his podcast, when he substitutes for George Norrie on Coast, which he's my favorite. He's my favorite substitute host, guest host. He's just so engaging to listen to. He's so interesting, and he knows a little about a lot of stuff, which makes him very engaging.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. I am so happy you had him on. I can't tell you.
Yeah, I was glad it worked out because, I was looking for that different voice, and that definitely fit that bill. Proverbially, with the voice being the radio show host and his background, because there's not many like that.
Now, what I want to see is how you can control yourself if and when we ever get a flat Earth guest. I want to see you be non-judgmental to the flat earther.
I was pretty good to the first two.
You were.
Well, kind of. Until I felt like they weren't answering my questions anymore.
Well, right. Exactly.
Yeah, then it got hard. Because like I said, I'm here to try to buy in. And I mean, it's a hard subject for me to buy into. But if you're not willing to make a good case, it really makes it hard.
It makes it really difficult.
Ryan Bowden wants us
to an example. People who believe in a flat Earth, that is, in many respects, it is not only their passion, but it becomes their earthly religion. It becomes the thing that motivates them, that animates them. For whatever reason, I can't explain it, and I'm not judging them per se, because, other people are motivated by the cross. Other people are motivated by the Star of David, or whatever. Mother Nature. Crystals, whatever their thing is. So I'm not judging that, but there's an example of people who I think have a void and they grasp onto this flat Earth, and it acts as a North Star. Pardon the bad pun.
No, it's still north, even if it's flat, right?
It's still, I guess, yeah, it's up. I guess I don't know. Some shield, some dome. I don't get it.
Brian Bowden wants us to go host a show on the south side of Chicago.
Oh, good Lord. No, Sir Brian, you do not want to host a show on the south side of Chicago. And sadly, you don't want to host a show on the west side of Chicago now. Pretty bad.
Yeah, but this was years ago, though. But I went to Wrigley, and that place is chef's kiss for Wrigley.
No, that's the north side. That's where I'm from.
I know, but I'm just saying.
I'm a north sider.
before they renovated too, by the way. So
yeah. Oh, then
I mean, it was
punch yourself
crumbled
in
in
the
on
back.
itself. I mean, it was crumbled in on itself. I mean, it needed renovated, but it's just
Was it? Did you have more fun there or at the Savannah Bananas?
Savannah Bananas.
That is those guys. I want to see them so bad.
It is just remarkable to.
Are they single A or double A?
They're independent, but they beat a double A team.
Okay.
They beat a double A team a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
Which is pretty impressive and they were still doing their shenanigans and playing a straight game, which is just. I mean,
I was enjoying all of your coverage from the game on Twitter, now X.
Yeah, I was trying to keep you up to date, and well, I got to tip my hat to Jesse Cool, their owner.
Do you know him?
We actually, we talked a little bit before the game, and then I talked to him after the game. Well, they have all access, right? After the game, there's all the players available for autographs, interviews, TikToks, whatever, in the main concourse up there, all around, So, and he was there, so I talked to him for a couple minutes, and he's the yellow tux guy, right?
Yeah, yellow tux. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
did you invite him on?
Of course I did.
Good.
So, well, Winters, when he's not out there, making these grand productions, but
during the off season.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it was just cool to actually talk to him and get his opinion on some things. So
that's all. That's awesome. I think the best, I'll say this publicly. I think the best kept secret in our country for family entertainment, affordable family entertainment, is minor league baseball. Of all pinstripes and all pinstripes, of all stripes and polka dots. Really, it is such a fun time. It is, I'm talking AAA, AA, single A, independent, sub-league ball. I've got 2 teams here in the town I live in. In my little town, I have 2 teams. They're not affiliated with any major league team because they're draft leagues, and they're just right below single A, trying to work their way into getting accredited. Those games are just as fun. They're affordable. I mean, $13 to get in, general admission, $13. And it's so great. And you get a fireworks show with it. I'm not kidding you. It's better than my town's 4th of July fireworks. I mean, it's amazing. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to the last game of the year because the season will be over. I can't wait.
So I went to a Seawolves game at the beginning of the month, whenever that was. And, yeah, it's phenomenal. My kids didn't like it, but, they seen the Bananas first. That kind of ruined them on baseball.
Well,
they aren't big baseball. They aren't big baseball people anyways. Right, and then that up and then down.
Listen, that's your mistake. You never take them to the Bananas first.
Well, that's how the calendar fell, though.
Yeah,
but right. So I took my daughter up to the seats because we were had a picnic, area, so we were hanging out with some people down there, and she's like, "Well, let's go see our, the actual where we're supposed to sit." And I said, "Okay." So we walked up to the higher level, and we sat down at the seats. Right, good view, a little bit off home plate. I mean, not bad for, any ball game.
Yeah.
And there was a guy on the end of the row, right? Like 2 rows up. Got his feet up on the seat in front of him. He's got a scorecard that's, I swear, this big, right? It's a book. He keeps scoring all these games, right? Yeah. And a cowbell down on the step beside him. And he's yelling at these guys like he knows them. I'm sure he does because looking at that scorebook, he's been there all the home games.
Yep.
And it was just phenomenal. It kind of, because I was trying to explain to my daughter keeping score before because we picked up the free lineup cards on the way in.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh." So I said, they're a little small, these little boxes on this one. It's hard because when I played ball, I used to keep the book for the last couple innings. Yeah. And, they had much bigger boxes, right? So you could put the force out, how it went, and where it was hit, and all this other things. But this little, free lineup card was about less than a postage stamp, right?
Yeah,
comparatively. Yeah. So I'm like, yes, and I showed, it's kind of doodling, but it's really hard to do it. Oh, I want to do it. And then she got up there and seen this guy with this book that was, probably, double, and she's like, "Oh, wow. That's what you were talking about." And I'm like, "Yeah." Wow. And I said, just go stand over his shoulder for a minute, look at all the little pencil marks and all the little things. And so she did. She's like, that's something. I said, that's how you have to pay attention to the game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would encourage, even for those members of your audience who aren't avid baseball fans, and I don't even consider myself to be a super baseball fan. Hockey's more my jam, but it is at the minor league level. It's an experience that anyone, I really believe this. I should do PR for these people. They should pay me. That anyone would enjoy in the summertime. It is really, really tremendous. The day after I went, listen to this. The day after I went to the most recent minor league game here in my town, the next day, I didn't find out about this till it was over. I didn't even know. The next day, there was a day game. So it was the night game, and then it was a Saturday. Sunday was a day game. And they hired a helicopter filled with candy to fly over the stadium and do a candy drop to everyone in the stands. This stadium holds about 2,500, 2,300 people. There's a helicopter in my town dropping candy. I'm like, this is like my greatest dream come true. Where was I? It was like Willy Wonka come to life.
So I seen the Akron. Well, I went to Akron to see the Bananas, right?
Right.
And Akron has the rubber ducks.
Oh,
so
I love that.
So I went to their store just to kind of browse and try to see if I could. And I didn't find anything great, but I was just blown away that here I am. We've seen the big, massive Goodyear footprint in that town.
Oh yeah,
it's unreal. Like
it's unreal.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool to poke around and see so much duck stuff that isn't the right duck, but it was pretty cool.
But speaking of duck stuff, everybody needs to get themselves one of these. Speaking of duck stuff.
Mallory Report t-shirt for those audio listeners. He's proud again.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Just doing the play-by-play. That's my job. You're running cower tonight. The best secret for this is Brian Bowden. The best kept secret for families is Waffle House and Walmart.
Preferably next to your minor league baseball park.
I don't take this the wrong way, Walmart, but I'm not sure that's a fun family activity.
Yeah, depending what Walmart you go to, it's not.
I'm pretty sure there isn't too many Walmarts so I like to take my kids to. Well, it's a little bit different now they're older, but when they were younger, no, there wasn't anyone on the planet.
Oh, dear Lordy.
You know how that is, avoiding that one side of the store because if you see anything shiny that requires batteries or
That's right.
Or is 50% overpriced.
Oh, yeah, and how? I have a question for you. I'm back to Neil Punter for a second. How did you guys wind up connecting? How did you bump into each other that you were able to bring him on as a guest? I never heard the backstory.
You know the answer to that. Twitter, X, whatever. I follow.
I know the answer, but your viewers may not.
Oh well, that's how. What is it? 75% of people come through.
Yeah.
LinkedIn's probably the other 20, and 5 is just straight cold call. For that kind of insight, I guess, if you wanted. It's interesting to try to find spiritual guests and other guests on LinkedIn because it's amazing how proud some of them are on other social medias.
Yeah.
But on LinkedIn, they button it way down, and you have to almost know who they are and kind of try to find them the other way. And yeah,
exactly.
But it's fun. It's the art of that's what makes this the hunt, right? Trying to find that guest.
That's right.
And maybe I always hope that even if it's somebody we don't know, or isn't known well, that guest becomes that guest all over the place, right? Like it blows up and it takes off, and that way, when they come back through and they have reached a certain level of celebrity fame, whatever, I feel like we pushed it forward a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because like I've said this for a long time. You've probably heard me say this. I have to make 2 people famous before this can even become a thing.
True.
Well, I'll run the other statement out there for people who may be joining mid. I haven't said this in a while. But if I ever do the perfect show, you're never going to hear from me again.
That's a good philosophy.
So be on the watch out.
Yeah, exactly.
So
what's going on in Lancaster, Pennsylvania?
Okay, so Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm going to a conference for school choice, and I'm actually nominated for a couple of awards down there too, which is gonna be cool. Advocate, Legacy Advocate, and Legacy Parent. Well, me and my wife are nominated together for Parent. Not sure how that works, but it's a singular award for two people. I'm not sure, but hey, it's pretty cool, especially being. I tell you all the time, kind of being a new kid on scene, but
yeah,
been at it working in the shadows for a couple of years now.
Who can vote in the awards process? Who's allowed to cast a vote?
Well, we've already voted. They put it out in like 4 or 5 days. It was kind of a tight window, which is fine. But we'll find out. I think it's September 7th. If I don't have it right in front of me, it's that first week of September for sure.
Well, being a Chicago native, just rest assured that I voted early and I voted often.
That's good. I do appreciate that, and it's just pretty cool. And I guess that leads us to our other announcement. Do you want to make that now, or should we just tease it and leave it there for a minute?
Oh no, make it now.
Actually, I'll put a pin in this one. We'll come back to it, right?
All right.
But I've got another announcement I want to make right now. How's that sound?
Okay.
So we've got Haunted Fall predictions, replacing that wild card show. In breaking news right now. Well, I figured this out this afternoon, but breaking news because I haven't told anybody yet. Weird Winter.
Weird Winter. Well, then Brian Bowden will fit right in.
I was going to say there's nobody more weird than him, so he'll probably be on. So
that's a compliment, Brian. So Brian, that's a compliment.
Yeah, so that's cast that big net again, right? Because that kind of opens the can to flat Earth, possibly cryptids, UFO sightings, six-fingered people, freak show level people have them on video so they can show off, right?
Oh yeah.
So we're going to be looking forward to that for whatever that'd be, probably a 6 or 7 week of that to get to maybe through January. I haven't really thought that far ahead, so I don't know when it's going to end, but
okay.
But I figure at least a couple weeks of that.
Weird Winter, I like that. There's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Yeah, I was going to say. So, and that's so broad, and I would definitely want to push the spectrum of all this weird stuff. So it might go for a while.
It would be interesting too. It would be to have a. It's easier said than done. I understand that, but to locate there's a number of guests out there that claim that they have recorded conversations with Bigfoots.
Yes,
and they have it on tape, and you can share those sound bites as part of the podcast. I think that would be incredibly engaging.
And I'm not going to name names because there's no point in this, but I seen a guy who often posts pictures of Bigfoot, and it's a shadow or a tree stump.
Yeah.
Just saying. Like, he'll zoom in. So, like, okay, we got a picture this big. He'll zoom in to right there, and then it'll be like, got Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got a pixel.
Yeah.
That may or may not be Bigfoot shaped.
Who is the author that you've had on before? He's done the Missing 911 series, David
Pilates.
David Pilates. He would be great to have as a return guest during Weird Winter. And he might even have a book out by then that he might be,
pretty sure. He's always cranking those.
He always has a project, either a documentary or a new book coming out. And boy, he was, for me, that's a top 3 guest you've had. Top 3.
Who's the other two?
The Secret Service agent.
John Carmen.
John Carmen. I'm bad with names. John Carmen, David Paulides, and
this is a test for me because you say these names and I'm
I know so many Daves. I know. There's just been so many good ones. So many good ones. I liked what was her name that did the she was on Travel Channel, Haunted, Shepherdstown, Ghosts of Shepherdstown.
Oh,
Elizabeth somebody.
Shepherd. No.
Yeah, Shepherdstown, West Virginia.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Elizabeth, her name was Elizabeth. Elizabeth something.
Yeah. Something. I can't think of it.
She was really interesting. Personality plus, talked about everything that she experienced, and she was not of this community, and she found herself, in this TV production, and how it changed her. I thought that was another very engaging guest. I loved it.
And the other thing is, she's a fan of the show.
Oh, is she? Awesome. And also the author from Antarctica.
Oh yeah.
Top five show.
Yeah.
That was another show where I'm like, you got to be kidding me! It's only 60 minutes. Please keep going.
Hey, I was like, again, that's that flyer, right? Because you can show go one of two ways, right?
I mean,
really drive.
Really... Bottle. That was lightning in a bottle.
So
I was very talented storyteller with stories to tell.
Yeah, I was gonna say that makes it easier to be a good storyteller when you have good stories. But not other people's stories.
It's so hard. I mean, I can sit here and I start thinking back over the years how many guests I've really liked. I can go on and on. The one that you had about the Manson family.
Yeah,
he lived in his house.
I'm gonna reach out to him and be back on his fall here.
Boy, he was really good too. I mean,
and the helicopter and the dogs and all of that.
yeah. I mean, so many good ones.
Maybe it'd be easier to
Brian Bowden, when you've had Brian Bowden on as a guest, he's great.
Maybe it'd be easier to ask you who you don't like.
Well, I have one, but I'm not going to say.
Uh-huh. In all honesty, I can't.
Gio and I shared the same opinion on the guest that we liked the least. Gio knows what I'm talking about.
I'll have to pry it out of him then.
Yes.
But in all honesty, I haven't had many guests that I don't like.
Yeah.
Like, they're all likable. I mean, I have many that I didn't agree with, but that's fair. I mean, that's what it is, right? That's why I have them on, because I need that push to understand what I believe and why I believe it.
That's exactly right. And you don't have to have a guest on just because you like them.
Well, if I did that, we never knew. If we did that, we never have new guests around here, right? We just rotate probably the same 10. And...
Yeah, right. Well, you wouldn't have me on, so there you go.
No, so okay. Oh, I better do this now because
I was gonna say, don't forget your announcement.
Because Dave's probably going to ask me a question here in a minute. We're just going to keep rambling about it. So, in the alliance with the charter school event I'm going to in October, Dave knows this. A few other people know this. That I went to Evergreen in Cleveland, Ohio. First announcement out of that meeting was the Mauer Report is staying with them for the foreseeable future. They are thrilled with the product. Next announcement is me and my wife are launching a platform. I think is what we're going to go with. It's a website. Oh, save that other part of the announcement. For educational advocacy, family advocacy, all that stuff wrapped around. So we can have a place to send people who have questions and need more answers. But I kind of paused there and said, there's another part to this. I'm going to be hosting a second podcast officially, finally, after all these years. And we're going to do, I don't want to say shorter interviews there, but they're going to be shorter. They're going to be more, I hate to say this, but clip ready. I'm just going to be asking, have the questions. So it doesn't necessarily it won't be like this show at all, but there's some preparation to kind of theme the questions back off of each other. So it kind of feels like, but isn't totally answer driven, because several of these people I've interviewed one lawmaker already, and I've got another one 2 weeks from now. So to do those type of interviews in that kind of window they give you, you kind of got to go for the 4 or 5 best questions related to the content you want to push out there. So, yeah, and also that's going to be an evergreen product. which will be exciting because there is some minutia between I'm officially a killer show, even though I'm listed on Evergreen. This will be a full Evergreen front page kind of deal, which is nice because, like I said, there was some difficulties with the show at first, but we've worked through them, and I think they're very happy with the product I'm putting out. So,
excellent. Well, congratulations! I think that's awesome, and you can really, in addition to your love and devotion to the paranormal, of late, I think your listeners and your viewers have really heard in your voice the passion that you have for better schools on behalf of all kids of all generations that are coming yet into schools, the charter school system, everything about a choice. Your passion really shows through. So this is very exciting, and so congratulations.
And I'm going to ask the same question. I'll post the same question that the CEO did to me. And he says, what's the future of the report? And I said, honestly, I plan on doing it until one of them pops off in such a way that I can't manage both. If the report pops off and, takes off, I'll have to play that podcast down and work on other content. Of course, my wife's going to be co-hosting it with me, so there's going to be some work that I can push off on her until, whichever point it breaks. But if the advocacy thing pops off in a major way, which kind of already, I don't want to say has, but there's been obviously a lot of developments in this over the last year. I'm not sure where that point becomes. I'm sure it'll be very obvious when it happens. But if it happens, well, I'm sure at some point it may become bi-weekly, whatever, for a while. I don't know. We'll work through that hurdles when we get there. But I just enjoy talking to people. And thankfully, the hard part of the show is getting the guest and get it posted, because I can still do all that research at 7 o'clock on Sunday night, where I just kind of have a little downtime after the race. So it'll work. So I don't foresee any changes, but obviously if something does, I'll want everybody to know.
That's great. Yeah, I think people should be really enthused about this, to see you so happy about this and not feel at all that this is going to be some kind of, for lack of a better word, a threat to the Mallard Report. Your legacy listeners and viewers shouldn't be worried at all. This is you can do both.
Yeah, like I said, for the foreseeable future, I plan on doing both. Unless, like I said, if I start getting invited to speak events all around the country, and there's a window that I could be looking at, but I'm looking at the door right now, and I can see that window is pretty small right now. It might open up at some point, but obviously you guys will know when I start looking like this all the time, and it just doesn't seem engaged. And that's the other thing. Like, if it does come to a point where I'm just not engaged in it, that'll be something we're gonna have to review too. But that's obviously hasn't happened yet. So
that's good.
Any other questions?
Great. I'm on board. Just remember, there's a post coming. I see a post.
Yeah. Well, if I start playing the outro now, it plays through a couple times, the show's over.
That's right. You got it on a loop.
Yeah, I got it on the loop, even though it says it's not supposed to. So maybe I should put the loop setting on, and maybe it'd stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm not understanding what that push button means. Yeah. So, no, I'm excited. I'm excited that I get to launch that podcast while I'm at that event. It seems like that's how that's going to work. So I'm excited about that, because that's kind of a cool opportunity. Even though there's no window for me to do that at the event, at least I'll be able to pass out some information to people while I'm there. So it'll be cool.
Absolutely.
Well, Dave, I appreciate you as always.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I'll be shouting at Gio here in a few minutes to tell me who your least favorite guest is, but that's here or there.
Oh, Gio.
And Brian Bowden. And Brian Bowden, I look forward to your predictions. I see that comment, and I didn't want to leave it unaddressed, but okay. Talk to you in a second, Dave.
It's the Mallard Report. Yeah, the Mallard Report.
Hey, I want to thank you for joining us. It's
been a good show tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Take a few moments, subscribe, share, all the fun stuff. You know how to do it. I don't have to tell you. Just be ready for next week. It'll be sooner than you think.
It's the